Whatever circumstance you're in, ask God what He has to say to you in this situation. The story really begins that we've never been able to conceive, and we're just so frustrated and so angry and so empty, feeling so empty inside that it wasn't happening.
We were married for 8 years without children, and in the 7th year, Lee began to do a study on couples who didn't have children.
And I just began to page through the stories in the Bible of couples who were unable to conceive, some of whom did conceive and others who did not. And I just began to look at those stories and ask God, what message do you want to give us about our situation? And I read in Genesis 18, and He said, I will surely return to you next year about this time, and Sarah, your wife, will have a son. And I read on to the other stories, and my heart just kept coming back to that passage in Genesis 18. And so I came home, and I told her that, I thought God had really spoken to me, and that we were going to have a child next year about this time.
And I said, right. And so he said, no, I really believe this is God talking to me about this. And sure enough, he began to tell other people that this is, God had told him this time next year we're going to have a son. And even at a retreat, he shared it in his talk. And I said, well, Lee, did Sarah have to believe that we were going to have a son, that they were going to have a son? And he said, yeah, I think she did, because, and that said Sarah through faith, conceived. So I thought, oh Lord, do I really believe that you can do this? And so this was a time of great prayer for me and time with God. And the verse that, or actually the passage that God had been really using in my life was from Psalm 20. That said, I asked the Lord and He heard me and delivered me from all my fears. And I was afraid of being disappointed, And I felt like God was speaking to my heart about it and saying, Kitty, can you take God at His word also? So I finally, and He said, I believe God really told me that, Samuel would be a really good name for this child. And so I asked Lee one night when we were in bed, I said, Lee, what do you think of the name of Samuel? And that was the first indication that I had ever even started to believe this might happen. And he said, I really like that name, because it means ask of God. So amazingly, that next year we had Samuel, Lee Bennett, and that was the beginning of our family.
And this was one of the greatest examples, I think, in our lives together at that point that we'd ever seen of a promise from God. And we really learned, we sing the song, Standing on the Promises of God. It's another thing altogether when you actually do it and you see Him come through.